All right. All right, guys. Hope you're doing well. Sorry again for the late start on this stream. Each week I'm trying to improve this. And even though I've done YouTube for the last 10 years, this is like doing the live thing is a lot more involved than I anticipated it being. So thank you for your patience and bearing with that. We're going to get started here in just a second. As you know, we're going to start off with in case you've watched one before, but we're going to start off with just kind of a time for people to hang out and for people to get here, and then we're going to go through a lesson. And so we're going to have let's see, I'm going to check my phone just to make sure I'm live and everything's going good. I just saw a thing that said no data. I want to make sure I have data going on here. Anyway, then we're going to do a live we'll do a live lesson, and then we'll open it up for questions afterwards. So we will get started here shortly. Let me know who's watching and who is here, and I'd appreciate that. That way I know exactly what kind of when to get started. Well, we'll get started here in a second, regardless of how many are here. I think, yep, I'm right here, and it looks like it's good on my phone. So, okay, we're good to go. Today we're talking about the topic of major and minor chords. And this is something, believe it or not, is like something that people have over the years. I've had people ask a number of times, what is the difference between a major and minor chord? And so hopefully I'll be able to get that really answered for you. I promise you, by the end of tonight, if you do not know about major and minor and easily be able to tell the difference, you will 100% be able to know this. So it's pretty easy. So also at the, in case there's any super chats, they're going to get questions answered first. And then also any questions, feel free to put into the comments and I will answer those as well at the end of it. So we'll get started here in just a second, as some more people are jumping on. But like I said, a second ago, we will have, the teaching time, and then I will upload that video as a separate video afterwards. For some reason, YouTube takes like a day to get that, the live stream up as a video, but they have a way that you can cut it down and upload it as well. So, all right, please do me a favor and give me some thumbs up and all that kind of jazz. But let's dive into it, into the major and minor chords here, and this will be based off of our previous lessons, talking about the major scale formula a little bit, and then also talking about the numbers, thinking in numbers. So here we are here. We've got our keyboard here that we can look at a little bit, as well as our little pad here. So again, let's go ahead and just write out the most simple major scale, which is going to be the C major scale. So just the alphabet, basically C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then we're back up to C. You should be good here. All right. Got one, Jervon says he's here. Good to see you, Jervon. All right. Let's see. If we attached a number to each one of these guys like this, then we're going to call 8 and 1 right there. Then we have kind of a number here. So every major, or every chord basically is built off of numbers. Okay. What we call major chords, minor chords, augmented, diminished, minor 7 flat 5, sixth chord, 6/9 chords. All those are basically talking about numbers. They're using numbers to define the chord. So what that means is there are some implied numbers right off the bat. And those implied numbers are 1, 3, and 5. So every basic chord, so our basic chords are major, minor, augmented, I'm going to just write AUG, and then diminished. And we will cover augmented and diminished another day. So basically right now, these are the two that we're looking at right now, major and minor. They all use the 1, the 3, and the 5 as implied in their names. So if you've ever seen a chord that has another number or something attached to it, that's because it's playing the 1, the 3, and the 5 also of the scale, but then it's adding something else to that. So what this looks like here is a C chord, or a C chord going off of the C scale is going to use the 1, the 3, and the 5. Okay, so we have basically a C chord equals C, E, and G. Oh, pretty simple, right? Not too hard right there. So let's do that again, and we'll just pick another scale here. Let's just do D, E. Okay, and if we attach our numbers to it, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 enter 1. And so a D chord, just a D major chord. So a D major is like basically writing out major is redundant. And so they basically said, you don't have to write out major every time you have something, just write out the letter name. And that's why usually, this is the same thing. Just seeing the letter name and seeing D major is the same thing. So a D chord is a D major chord is going to be the 1, 3, and the 5, which are D, F sharp, and A. Okay. Very simple right there. You guys got it. And by the way, I'm going to show another way to do this here that does not involve the major scale formula. So if you missed the first lesson and you don't know your scales very well, there's another easy way to do this as well. So let's do an example of a minor chord. Okay. So let's go back to, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just write out a couple of scales here. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So that's like the C scale. D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D. That'd be the D scale. Let's do a flat. Let's do B flat. Sorry. F, G, A, and B flat. All right. So all of these, here's our numbers again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, enter 1. All right. We're good there. You got that. So the minor scale, the minor chords are basically the exact same thing as a major chord, except with the minor chords, they have a flat third. Okay. So, basically we take the third note and we go a half step below. So what this is going to look like practically. So if we have our, say for example, the C major chord, so our 1, 3, 5 is going to be, would be C, E, and F. So this is C. Okay. I'm sorry, what am I saying? Not 1 with the F. C, E, and G. So here's our major chord, C. Okay. And then if it's a flat, the minor is going to be, and the minor, we just put a little M like that. Sometimes you might see like a minus sign to distinguish minor. But usually it's the M. I guess technically you could see this, you could see C. Somebody could write that out if they really wanted to be longhand. But but the C minor is going to be C and then flat the third. So we're going to go, here's our E. We're going to go down a half step to E flat. Okay. And then G, just like that. So basically the only difference is right here. Okay. Is in the flat, is the third is flat. Okay. So the third is what the main thing with the difference between major and minor is. That's it right there. The third. Okay. Let's give a couple more examples here just to be good here with these. Let me scoot that back a little bit. All right. So, let's go to let's do it in D. So like, let's say our D chord and then our D minor chord. D minor versus D. So 1, 3, 5, we're going to have D. It's going to be the same in both of them. There's our 1. Our 3 is going to be F sharp. And then here, it's going to be the flat third. So if we take the F sharp, we go down a half step. So if we take F sharp, go down a half step, we're on F. Okay. So then this would be D, F. And then our 5 is G. A. Okay. So far, so good. Pretty simple, pretty easy. Try to get this keyboard where I can do both things here. There we go. Might have to zoom this out just a little bit here. That might be a little bit better. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so one more. Let's do B flat, and then we'll go from there. Not wanting to erase. All right, okay, B flat and B flat minor. Our 1, 3, 5. We got the B flat. 3 is going to be D. 5 is going to be F. Okay. On the minor, we've got B flat. The 3 is going to be D flat. Okay. And then again, F the same. Again, the only difference is in this whole thing is this guy right here is the middle one determines the third determines what it is. And you might want to know why, and we'll discuss this in a future lesson, but why why it's even called major or minor has to do with that third in itself, because the distance between, I'll do it on the C, in the key of C, the distance between the 1 and 3, this is called a major third, and that's a minor third. It's very simple. We'll get to that in another lesson, diving into the different intervals is what that's called. But hopefully that makes sense. If anybody's having any issues with that, let me know. And then I'm going to say one more thing, and then we're going to dive into the second way to do this, which is actually a lot easier than what I just taught. But I think it's important to know the way I just taught it first. Okay. Here's the thing about it. You have to, again, the letter name has to be the correct letter name that's represented. So let's see, going into, let's just say the key of a C major. So C is going to be C, E, and G, and then C minor is going to be C, E flat, and G. It is not going to be C, D sharp. Okay. Now this may sound like, well, what does it even matter? I mean, in practicality, like as you're playing music, it doesn't matter. But as you're thinking music theory, it does matter on how everything works together. So you have to have a letter name in between these. So basically, this will always skip a letter name. Okay, it'll always skip a letter name. Doesn't matter, C minor, C major, augmented, diminished, it'll always skip a letter name. So basically, there's an invisible D here. There's an invisible F here. Okay. And you're not going to have two letter names right next to each other. And each week I've kind of harped on that a little bit, and it kind of is important. Especially as you get further into music theory, that is an important concept to appreciate, is that there is not there has to be a letter name in between. All right, now let's get to the good stuff. This is where, honestly, if you came for this, this is where you need to stay for this, because this will explain things super easy. All right, let's see. Okay, we will eventually talk about in fuller detail major thirds, minor seconds, major seconds, perfect fourths, perfect fifths. These are intervals. These are jumps. Okay. Today we're only talking about the third. Okay. We're only talking about the third interval. And so basically I'm going to give you an overview really quick, but basically in any scale that you have, you have different intervals. So if you start on 1 and you jumped up here, this is actually called a major. Second, if you have 1 and you jump up to the third, this is called a major third. Okay. So if it's in the key, if it's in whatever key you're in, so again, we'll go back to our good old trusty key of C. This is just, everything lines up easy. It's real easy to what am I doing? It would be easy if I wrote the right letters down. All right. So here, the distance between, imagine like you're at a, you're like a long jumper or something, and you're doing that thing where you start and you jump and you land, and then they see the distance in between it. That's what you're doing. So like, it's like, we're starting right here. You're the dude, and you're jumping, and where you land here this is the interval. Okay. So the distance from C, the 1 to the 3, is a major third. Okay. And we are not going to write it out like this. We are going to write it out in a couple different ways. The easiest way to do it is, one way to do it is you could write out just a big M, and then like that. You could write a big M and then like a 3. Then basically though, the easiest way to do it, then what we're going to do is we're just going to write a big M. So a big M, okay, I'm going to write it over here. A big M equals major. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, if you were to jump from C to the flat third, okay, so we would jump to C to E flat. This interval here is called a minor third. Okay, and we are going to write this one with a little m, like a lowercase m is going to distinguish minor. Okay, so big M, major, small m, minor. Hopefully that makes sense. Now here's where this gets great. Let me show you on the keyboard how this is. A major third, if you're like, oh, I don't want to think about jumps and minor thirds and steps like that, this is so easy. A major third, so a big M, is equal to 2 whole steps. Okay, so if we have C, we go up a whole step and a whole step. That's our major third. Okay, there's the jump. So a whole step and a whole step. Very, very good. So a minor third is equal to 1 whole step and 1 half step. So basically, a major third is equal to, kind of do a dividing line here, is equal to 2 whole steps. And the minor third is equal to 1.5 whole steps. If you wanted to think of it as 4 half steps, you could, if you wanted to think of this as 4 halves, you could, but it's a lot harder to think in half steps. That's why scales make a lot of sense, because you're not having to deal with 12 tones and you can narrow it down to 7 pretty quickly. So, again, I'm going to rewrite this a little bit better, where this is a little bit easier. So, again, the major third, I'm going to write the little 3 so we can see it. Major third is equal to 2 whole steps. And a minor third is equal to, I'll write it out different this way, 1.5 whole steps. Okay, hopefully that makes very, very, very good sense here. Yeah, the also one thing that is important as you do different music theory things. A lot of times people use, instead of the word chord, they use the word triad. Triad and chord, it basically means, well, 3 notes in a chord are a triad. So one of these basic chord qualities, the major, the minor, the augmented and diminished, those are triads. As all the other numbers and things that are added onto chords, those are still chords, but it's not a triad because it's not 3. So the triad is going to be one of those basic major, minor, augmented, or diminished chords that use the 1, the 3, and the 5. Okay, now here's where this gets really cool. Let's see, let me erase this. So the distance between, again, C to E was a major third. Okay, now watch this. The distance between a C to a G is a minor third. Okay, so we have C to E, it's a major third, but then E to G is a minor third. So if we count up a whole step, then a half step. Okay, you guys following that? So this is a major third, this is a minor third. Okay, so a major chord it equals a major third and a minor third put together. So if you can figure out major thirds and minor thirds, immediately you've got this. Like, honestly, as far as chord theory is concerned, if you know that is so good. It's just great. So memorize, be able to quickly you don't even have to memorize. You just have to be able to play and see major thirds and minor thirds really quick. And whatever instrument you're on, guitar, piano, just identify what they are as you're going. So I'm going to do one more example. I'm not even going to write it out, but let's just take a look at the key of, or the D chord. So here's our D chord. D, F sharp, A. This is a major third. Okay. Here's a whole step, another whole step. There's a major third. And then here's our minor third. Here's a whole step. And there's the half step. Does that make sense? Let's go B flat. Okay. We were using that earlier, B flat. Let's go a whole step up. There's our major third. Now let's go up a minor third. So there's our, I'm trying to play it where you can see my fingers, but that's the chord, and that's the triad right there. Does that make sense? Let's go E flat. Okay, a whole step, and then 1.5 steps. Okay, there's our chord right there. Sorry, it's hard for me to. I need to get this where it's easier to see. So that's it right there. Even what's great about it is even the harder keys that are more difficult to figure out using the major scale formula, because you got too many flats in there or too many sharps in there, you can still use this to determine that. So like the key of E, again, here's our whole step and a whole step. There's the first half of it. There's the major third. Now our minor third, whole step, half step. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. All right, now why does that even matter? What's the big deal with that? Well, the opposite is true for the minor chord. So a minor triad or minor chord is a minor third followed by a major third. It's pretty cool. So basically we just flip them back. So on one, they just flip back and forth. So this is called a major third or major chord because this first interval is a major interval, and there's the minor. And then here, this is a minor chord because this first one is a minor third, and then you follow it by the major. And that's why that whether you're doing with a major or minor chord, they basically have the same. They're always going to have the same fifths, 1 to the 5. So if this is the same, we have to go up a major third for the key of C or the C chord, major third, okay, and then minor third. Okay, so those like fit together like a puzzle. But if I lower this down to a minor third, now automatically the distance, because I lowered it down, it raised this interval. So that's why major minor chords, when you realize that it's just the third that's lowering, it makes a lot of sense. So if you have all of your major chords down pretty easy, and then you're playing and you think, I don't know what the minor is in this, or whatever the case is, flat the third. That's all it is. All right, so let's give a couple more examples of that. Let's see. Well, actually, you know what? We don't even need this. So you guys got it. Major third, minor third. That's going to be the difference. Okay, let's go to the key of G. So here's our G. Here's our 1. These are going to be the same on both of them. So major third. Okay. And then our minor third. This is a major, minor, major, minor, minor, major. Does that make sense? Minor third, major third. That's a minor chord. Major third, minor third, minor chord. Hopefully that's making sense as I'm playing it. Let's do another key. Let's do E flat. So on E flat, we're going to have E flat. If we go up a major third, we go up a minor third. Here's our major. Here's our minor. Okay, these two stay the same. If I want to make it a minor chord, go E flat minor. I'm going to go up, make this a minor third, which then makes this a major third. That's it. It's pretty simple. So it's called stacking thirds. And by the way, I guess if you have questions about that, we'll dive into it in another lesson where we'll talk about the augmented and the diminished chord. But those are super easy to figure out as well. I'll probably tack that onto another lesson just so that it's a little bit, maybe there's more to the lesson. But yeah, hopefully this is helpful to you. Let's kind of recap on this again, the difference between a major and minor third, and then we will dismiss, and I'll open it up for questions. So if you're watching this live, go ahead and put any questions that you might have into the comments. Let's see, stacking turds. Yes. Sean Zimmerman just said stacking turds. Did I say stacking turds? I thought that I said stacking thirds, but I might have been wrong. I actually didn't get a whole lot of sleep last night, so I'm actually pretty tired. So, by the way, hopefully the audio is better today. Last week, this is actually an attic that I built. This room that I'm in right now was attic space, and so I built this room, and I didn't put AC in it except for an AC unit back there. You can kind of see it right there. It's a portable AC unit. And so it gets pretty hot in here. I'm in Texas. So last week I had it on, and it was just, sometimes I'm able to get this mic where it doesn't pick it up as much in the background, but it was bad last week. So I apologize for that. But let me know if the audio doesn't sound good. Let's see real quick. Random Dave says, as someone learning guitar, the piano does really make this more clear. It does. Guitar is my primary instrument. I play a number of instruments, but guitar was my first. But I actually, my dad was a pianist, and so he taught me how to play piano as well. And the way that it's laid out here is a little bit easier than the way that it's laid out on the guitar. But let me just do something real quick. Let me grab it. Let me grab my guitar. There we go. However, hopefully we might have to zoom this out a little bit. Oh, as far as it goes, we'll see. Guitar is the same thing though. Just get used to the difference in it. So know your thirds and you're going to be okay. So for example, like in a bar chord, you know, if you have like G, your third is this note right here. Okay. Sorry if it's out of tune a little bit. So the difference between this right here, and if I pick it up, it's going to be the bar. That's the minor chord. So it's very, very simple. You know, even certain chords that don't even really work very well. In theory, they work. You know, if you had a C chord, this is your third right here. So if I lower that down, oh, nope, sorry, I can't hit the top one because that's an E. That basically makes it the chord again. If I was playing it as a bar chord, this note right here is the third. If I lower it down a half step, it turns into that. So the same thing, A, I lower this a half step, E, lower this a half step. There's two that you're going to have to figure out. The first one is kind of on your bar chords, but then on any of the chords up here, like open chords or anything you're doing, this interval is a major third. That's a minor third. So as you're figuring it out, that's basically what it is. You just got to figure out what those intervals are on the guitar, and also it's going to be like the same thing here. And then you can also do it this way if you're wanting to walk up. Think of it in terms of steps. If you're just trying to figure out the actual notes, if you know your fretwork well, you might just be able to go like, you know, go up a whole step. So if you're saying, all right, what is in the key of G? What is the major chord? You could go, okay, that is a B. And then if you wanted to keep walking up, you could, or you could come down here, but do a minor third. Okay, there's our D. So the notes are G, B, and D. Or if you wanted to do it a little bit easier, memorize this interval, G, B, D. So that's how it would apply on the guitar. But I completely agree with you that I messed up the top camera here. It's not going to be right when I go back. I completely agree with you that on the piano, oh, it didn't mess up that bad. On the piano, it's a little bit easier to lay out like that. So basically that is it. But let's review one more time, just so we got it, both sides of it. So a little bit more of the, I would say like the major third, minor third thing. That's kind of like a hack, and the knowing the numbers and what they are and actually in the key, that's more of like the true understanding of how the chord is fitting together. You don't have to even know what the major scale is of a key in order to figure out what a major or minor third is. So, but again, let's dive into it. So if, again, we have our scale, whatever it is, again, our previous lessons, taking a look at, your major chord is going to be the 1, the 3, and the 5. That's major. And then your minor chord is going to be the 1, the flat third, and the 5. and that's going to be minor. And then again, I'll write it in different colors. It's a little bit easier to see. Then you have your intervals. So this interval here is going to be major. This interval here is going to be minor. And then this interval on the minor chord, the first one is going to be minor. And the second one is going to be major, just like that. So there you go. There you have it. That's it. Random Dave says, thank you. I'm still learning my way around the fretboard, but I'm getting there. Yeah, the fretboard's hard. It really is. It's really hard to figure out. Well, actually, I wouldn't say it's hard, but it does take time to do it. It takes time and it takes practice to kind of figure it out. I'll make a lesson at some point on some hacks on how to do that, because there are some easy things to do with that. In fact, as I end this lesson, I can kind of show you some things real quick on the guitar if you wanted to. And there you go. All right, guys, put any questions that you might have, and we will discuss it after I end this, and we'll keep on going for the live stream for anybody that is wanting it. If you wanted during the live stream, I could show you what the major and minor, or the augmented and diminished is real quick. That's pretty easy. And how to figure that out using the stacking thirds. But Kennis Russ a lot, guys. Thanks for watching, and I appreciate you being here each week and watching these videos, and hopefully we will make musicians better musicians together. And that is the goal for everything I'm doing here. So thank you guys so much. I'm going to end if you're watching this live, we can keep going. But if you're not watching it live, we're going to end it here, and I'll see you next week. All right, guys, we're live, and we are, we'll just kind of hang out a little bit. We can ask some questions and things. All right, let's see. Inventor says, if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, any combination of third numbers is a valid chord. Don't believe to those whom claim must be built only in thirds. Okay, yeah. Maybe that's true. Yeah, I guess any 3 chords. Well, actually, I think any 3 notes can make a chord. That is true. A triad, I believe, I might be wrong, but I think a triad is based off of it's going to be the 1, the 3, and the 5. Or at least typically how people would think of a triad. It would be based off of the 1, the 3, and the 5. Because people usually would say like major triad, minor triad, augmented triad, diminished triad, which leads me to this. Guys, if you wanted to know something here. All right, this one's for free. We'll talk about this in another video too, but so as we just saw that a major, let's see. Yeah. Okay, so we have like our 1, our 3, and our 5. And if it is a major chord, or a major and then a minor, this is going to be equal. So I'm going to just do this. So a major is equal to a major third and a minor third, big M, little m. Okay. Now the minor third is going to be the flat 3. It is equal to the minor third, the major third. We already discovered this. Or the minor chord, I should say, the minor triad. And then here's something interesting. The augmented, okay, augment means make bigger. Okay, so an augmented chord is still based on thirds. It's still based on the 1, 3, and the 5, but it's going to be 1, and we're going to raise the third. Okay, I'm sorry. No, we're not. I apologize. We're going to raise the 5th, which is going to be a sharp 5, which turns this into major. Okay, so an augmented chord is going to be a major third and a major third, and which a lot of times too, this is distinguished by a 6, like that. And then a diminished chord, which diminished means to make smaller, and so a diminished chord is going to be basically like a minor chord with a flat 5. Okay, so and it's going to be a minor third and a minor third. So diminished And a lot of times there'll be like a little circle, which will indicate a diminished chord. So if it was like C diminished, it'd be like that. C augmented would be like that. Sometimes there's different ways to write it. Sometimes I actually don't prefer circles. I usually write this. I write C dim, or a lot of times I'll write augmented like that. It just depends on how sloppy the chart is that I'm writing out. But the diminished is minor third and minor third. So if you look at this right here that's it. That is your stuff right there. Stacking the thirds. Major, minor, major, minor, major, minor. Augmented, major, major, diminished, minor, minor. Boom, just like that. You can also think of it as the minor chord, thinking of it in terms of numbers, is going to be 1 flat 3 5, and so it's the flat third is the deal. Let's see it. Major is just going to be 1 3 and 5. Augmented is going to be 1 3, and you're just now it's basically these two kind of go together, and then the diminished chord and the minor kind of go together, and I'll explain that. We have the flat 3 and the flat 5. So if you wanted to think of it this way, you could think of an augmented chord as like a major chord with a sharp 5, or you could think of a diminished chord as a minor third with a flat 5. Okay, which is why sometimes you might even have, as you get up there, you'll see this a lot if you're doing jazz. There's the minor 7 flat 5 chord. This could also be written as a diminished chord. I think it would be like a diminished 7 or diminished 7 chord, but it's I think that the minor 7 flat 5 is a little bit easier of a construct to figure out. But this thing here, this will save you big time, just memorizing that and getting to know that. All right, let's see. Inventor says there are 35 combinations, 35 chords of 3 notes inside a 7-note scale. Okay. I'd have to do the math on that. I'm not sure. You might be right, but I'd have to do the math on that. And also depending on how you would think of it, how you would think of the construct of it. Let's see. Yeah, you can have an augmented fourth triad. Yeah, you can do an augmented fourth triad. You're right. That's also known as what's called the tritone. That's in for another video. But what he's saying is normally here's your fourth. You can augment that, which you used to get in trouble for playing that chord back in the day. It's called the devil's chord. Let's see what else. Instead of your regular augmented chord. Okay, yeah. You can also have it. Yep. Minor equals diminished. Burnt says augmented fourth is the flat 5. Yeah, so augmented fourth being the flat 5, that is true. Those are the same notes. That's called an enharmonic. But that's not how you would think of it in terms of a chord. So, in other words, this right here, in terms of a chord, you need to think of it as like 1, 3, 5. Okay. And as far as a triad, one of the basic triads, you need to think of it as flatting the 5, not sharpening the 4th. I know it sounds like it doesn't make a difference, but in terms of the way the 5th is really what is determining the chord, because there is other ways for that. Because if you wanted to add that sharp 4 into it, you would actually add it in. Actually, very rarely have I ever even seen the sharp 4. Usually it's almost always, might even been every time I've ever seen it, has been a flat 5. In terms of chord theory, in terms of intervals, yes, you can have an augmented fourth, but it's just not really used. It's usually thought of as a diminished fifth. Flat 5 and diminished fifth is the same thing. Okay, a few more things and then we'll get going here. Let's see. The sus fourth, I guess, is what I meant. Yeah. Okay, that's what we're basically saying. Well, the sus fourth is not that. No, the sus fourth is, if we have our triad here, so our 1, 3, 5, a lot of times, so if you see, like C sus 4, what this basically means is, so our normal, our triad is going to be 1, 3, and 5. And basically what it's saying is suspend the 4, get rid of it. Suspend the 3, and then add a 4 in there instead. So you have that. Okay. If you had just like a C4, then this would be your chord. You would add in the 4 with the third, but the sus means essentially exchange the third for the fourth. Okay, that's what the sus is going to mean whenever you see it written. The way that most people will use that is that's what it means. You'll find that sometimes people, as they're writing out chords, mean different things, but it is. That's kind of how it is. Also, the same thing with the sus2 would be a similar idea. If you had like C sus2, then that would mean, you have your 1, your 3, and your 5. It would say suspend the third, like I think of it as like, you're suspended, you're kicked out of school, and then you're going to put in, sus2, you're going to put the 2 in instead. So our 1, 3, 5, instead of looking like this, you're going to suspend the third, and you're going to play it like that. But if it was just written as C2, then you'd play all of these together. Okay, so hopefully that really makes sense. Let's see. All right, we're going to take a couple more. Jamal says, I got some studying to do. Great information here. Appreciate that, man. Burnt Gerbil, very, very good. You said it's not just numbers, it's intervals. Yeah, that's true. And that's kind of why both of these need to be thought of together. Thinking of it as 1, 3, 5 and major and minor. So they're complementary concepts. So it's kind of like when, if you drive to a location, what the directions are, but then when you drive back to where you came from, it's, it's the exact opposite, but it gives you another idea, and you actually have a better idea in the concept of direction when that's happening. Two different ways. Music is filled with that kind of thing. There's like more than one way to think of everything. And this right here is this is like contemporary music theory. This is not even, using it in like Roman numerals and that kind of thing. So like anyway, so I'm not even going to get into that, but, yeah. All right, let's see. Okay. Inventor, you said these. Okay, you've got a bunch. Oh, okay, you wrote out all the different possible chord variations. Yeah. You've got a bunch of them. 5, 6, 7, 4, 6, 7, 5, 4, 5, 7. Yeah. I understand what you're saying by that. The thing with that, thinking of in music theory in terms of that, music theory is, and here's something, this might be kind of a point of discussion, because Inventor, I've noticed you post a lot of things, kind of saying, well, there's another way to think of it, and some of it's kind of contrary to kind of what I'm teaching, and that's fine. But the music theory is a theory, so it's not a law. It's not a law of music. It's a construct in which you try to put all the pieces together. There's all kinds of music theory constructs. And this is honestly, this is like, this is contemporary music theory, in the sense of this is how jazz chords are written out. That's how I've processed through it and kind of figured things out. But I got my education from a school that was a classical school. So it's basically 18th century music theory. So we're looking at Bach as the standard of how we think of music. A lot of ways it's great, but it is a construct. It is a theory. There are all kinds of different ways to think of it. Adam Neely had a video out a few months ago, maybe like 9 months ago, where he talked about the music theory, 18th century counterpoint, or 18th century music theory, as being a very Anglo idea, and really even a German idea of superiority, almost using music theory as a way to be superior. There's and he even quotes somebody, showed another video of somebody saying that, you have rhythm in music, and you have melody, and you have harmony. And they were saying, like, even like rap music wouldn't be considered music because there's not a melody. And that is just, if you are just basing it off of one construct, then that might be true. It's totally subjective though, because for example, in some construct of music theory in Africa, dance is actually part of the music theory concept. It's part of the interpretation of how music theory is all put together. So it's in that case, I'm not a very good dancer. I would have failed music theory. So it's important to understand that this is a way, all the stuff that I do here, all this kind of thing, this is a way to think about music theory. It is not the way, but it is the most kind of common way that people generally communicate in music theory. But it is not the end all be all. There's problems with it. They're for the most part figured out, but the deeper you go, there's definitely things that don't work. As well as, I look at it like, our number system, how we learn math, is also a construct, believe it or not. You think like, well, math is math. That should be, 2 plus 2 is 4, and 10 times 10 is 100. Well, 10 times 10 is 100. We think of that because that's how we've done math. Okay. Roman numerals were also math, but they didn't have it done that way. Okay. Jamal says, I remember that video is a great discussion on theory. I think he's referring to Adam Neely's video. Yeah, it is. And so anyway, if you go back to the Babylonians, they had a 6 number system. So in our number system now, I'm trying to remember where do we get our 10 number system? Somebody remind me of that. But we think of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then we have another section of 10s. We have another section of 10s that equal 100. And so it's like building blocks going up in 10s. So 10 is the number that everything is divided by, essentially, in order to create all of our numbers. But they don't do that. It was 6s. So it'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's a very interesting that, even something like math can be thought of in multiple different ways. And I'm not a mathematician, but I suppose that in theory you could create Arabic. Thank you very much, Random Dave. I don't know what I'm thinking. Yeah, Arabic, where we use the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's the Arabic, is what it is. So I'm going to approve Inventor's message because it looks like gibberish, and show. I'm going to show it because YouTube said it looks like gibberish. Anyway, the Arabic numeral system. And with that being said, so the music theory is just a construct. It's just a way to think of it. And what's interesting is as you dive into it, you have different people that will conceptualize things differently. When I was in undergrad, I had a guy doing a lecture. We had to do this lecture every Tuesday or every Monday morning or something. And it was usually pretty boring. And it gave people like the opportunity to perform pieces and things like that. And so I guess it was kind of fun to see friends or different people perform. But anyway, this week they had a guy, and I wish I knew his name. But he was he had his doctorate in music theory, and he had gone to, I believe it was the African continent, and stayed with a tribe there to study their music theory, to study the way that they conceptualize music theory. And at our school where we're at, I was a composition major, and the composition majors really got into that kind of thing because they're, yeah. And so what they, I was like on the edge of my seat listening to him. Everybody else was kind of zoned out, but he was talking about how they had conceptualized quarter tones. Instead of like whole steps and half steps, they had quarter tones in it. And he laid out like, he used Western music theory and the staff, 18th century theory to write out kind of how he adapted that to show how how these quarter tones were implemented. But yeah, it wasn't even an 8-note scale. It was crazy. Or it wasn't even like 12 notes in the octave. They had notes intervals that we used that they didn't use. And then they had intervals that, using a fourth tone, a quarter tone, that we never use or hardly ever use unless we're bending or we're gliding to another note. So, music theory, there are tons of different ways to think of it. And, so Inventor, I got you that you got like, a lot of things written out there, in the comments. And, to me, it's kind of like thinking of it in terms of math, but not necessarily in terms of application. So like, that's why, like, for example, the major scale is important, because chords are based on the major scale. Your key of your song is based on the major scale. The way things are altered is alterations of the major scale. If it is simply like 12 notes, individual notes, you can make that happen. You can theorize that. However, it is very difficult to communicate that. So, knowing where to land, knowing where you're supposed to be. And when you're playing with people, if you're just saying, let's just use the 12 notes. We don't have to think of it in key. We don't have to think of it in terms of intervals. We don't have to think of it in terms of that. It's very difficult. I mean, it's kind of, like even the way things are broken down with, like even something as simple as a major third and a minor third is easier to say than 4 half steps or 3 half steps. Eventually, when you start getting into to more complex things, it's kind of like code on in software. You can look at code, and people that are really good at looking at code can like see, the matrix style, what it's doing. But for the rest of us, we don't. We just need to see like what the screen is saying and like the interface. And so that, in a lot of ways, is what music theory is it's a way to interface with music with each other. All right. Dissonance and Inventor says that dissonance and consonants are subjective. What you might ask if they are incorrect chords, they are not, because there are no any chromatism. I think what you're saying is, yeah, they're just frequencies. Absolutely. Yeah. It is absolutely subjective. So to someone say that is not a chord, or, even if you played guitar out of tune, or, because guitars go out of tune real easy, you could say, hey, I was playing in perfect tune. It just wasn't the tune that your ears are used to. Absolutely. And then Burnt says, to be fair, some of those 9ths, 11ths and 13ths. Okay, you're talking about Inventor. Okay, let me see. I feel like this is Random Dave. I feel like East and South Asian music would also be using different theory, but I'm not sure. I think I mean, they absolutely used different music theory before the East and the West came together, before we were sharing information. Right now, ethnic and cultural music from Eastern countries, yes, absolutely. Indian music has a different system. Sometimes they go. Actually, Adam Neely talked about that too. Sometimes there are ways that it can relate, and you can kind of use terms in each system to understand the other one, but they're not exactly the same. So yeah, they're definitely different. And even that, like, if you looked at, I wasn't a vocal major, but I did sing a lot. And I know, like, classically how to sing. If you were to take like an Indian vocalist, most, in like a Western college, and getting voice lessons, they would say, no, you're sounding too nasal, or whatever the case is, but that is the sound of Indian music. It's not bad. It is just different culturally. So yeah, there you go. All right. Eastern music, has quarter flats and sharps. Or yeah. Burnt, Gerbil said that. Yeah, it's amazing. It really is amazing. And, I really do highly recommend you guys watch that video from Adam Neely, talking about music theory, as a Western concept. And as he just said that, Adam Neely he said, Random Dave says, I'll have to check out that Adam Neely video. Then Burnt Gerbil says, look up Turkish microtonal guitar. It's pretty crazy stuff. Jamming at first. Wow. That is really cool. I'll have to do that. Well, this was kind of a fun discussion. I might even make this a separate video on its own, just so that people can, at some time, I think it's an important concept, to think about. And, just as, I don't know, that as I've taught people over the years, sometimes people go, I don't want to learn all that music theory. It hinders my creativity, and, it doesn't hinder creativity. It actually allows you to open up. But it's also a box. And so you can feel free to step out of that box if it's going to make you more creative. The inventor says it only sounds good in melody if you attempt to build chords with microtonal sounds out of tune. Okay. Well, even that would be subjective. This chord for a long time was, that was a, not an appropriate chord, but it's used all the time now. But yeah, I agree. There's, to me, a lot of things don't, microtonal music doesn't sound good, but sometimes it does. It just depends on how it's being used. Anyway. All right, guys, I got to get going. I got one more thing. Adventure says, I see it simple. Alphabet has 26 letters. Chemistry has 118 elements, and those are the scales and chords. And these are the scales and chords. Okay. I'm not really sure what you're saying by that, but I appreciate you writing it. Yeah, you can also think of it in terms of language. Obviously, there's tons of different languages. In tune with itself, not necessarily out of tune. Yeah, very, very good. Burnt. Okay, guys, Random Dave says, thanks, Kennis. And I'm going to say thanks to you for watching. I'm going to hit end now, and I appreciate you guys. I will see you next week, and you're awesome. And Lillian Reed says, learned a lot. Thank you. I'm really glad. Like I said, my desire is that we're able to help musicians become better musicians. And that's the whole reason why I'm doing this. So hopefully it's helpful. Do me a favor, like this video. And actually, if you see the replay, watch that one and like that one as well too. Maybe one of them will start to get traction. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. I will check you out next week. Hopefully I'll be able to be ready and on time next week at 9 and not late. But it might still be 9:30. because for some reason I cannot get my act together. Thanks, guys. I will see you later. Jamal, good to see you. Everybody, good to see you. Random Dave, Inventor, Burnt. You guys are awesome. So thanks. Appreciate it.